Before we start with the Q&A, I just want to, if you could join me in recognizing Iimura-san's partner and also part-time camera operator and performer, Akiko Iimura, who's with us tonight as well. So, it's a pretty good, rigorous show. How does it feel?
Thank you.
Well, first, see if there's any questions from any of you to start with, or I'll kick it off. Please.
It's a short series of questions. I don't know enough about video, but I'm curious how you distorted the faces in the series of 6 characters. What was the function on the machine that did that? Should I just ask questions in the series, or come back to it in a second? The other question was which semiotic texts were the most influential on you?
Well, let me see. You're talking about
6 characters.
Six features. I-U.
The Japanese characters. And how did I make it?
Distorted. Yes.
How did you
the distorted, the face. Oh, I see. Well, it was done by this special device called System G, which Sony invented in a way at that time. It's software, hardware combined kind of machine. And I don't know enough about the technology itself, but I had the chance to use it. So it's a little similar to what they call the morph. You can distort a certain picture. But this one is sort of multiple image operation can be done. So either mouth and ear at the same time. And so I enjoy using it. But although it's a very expensive machine, but I asked them to use it free, so I had a chance to do so after finishing the showroom.
And her second question was, what semiotic texts have been most important to you?
This one, you're talking about, again, IO or not necessarily?
In general.
I mean, obviously, the Jardo one you referenced over, but in general.
Oh, in general.
You might have also been reading Berger and Sontag and possibly Adorno too. I'm just curious who you were reading that was so
I see.
influential on the semiotic journey.
Well, I'm not myself. I wouldn't call myself a semiotician. I read some basic material, both in English and Japanese, and some only Japanese. So I wonder that there's a semiotics on film, especially like starting from Eisenstein and also going through this French semiotician, film semiotician, Christian Metz, and it's sort of what I found interesting and relating the video, but there's no video semiotician, so I try to find out what's the difference between film and video as far as the semiotics is concerned. So using this 2 cameras facing each other and as a basic system, and referring to myself intervening between 2 cameras, and so I myself sort of seeing myself as well as who is seeing. So this basic configuration developed in a way, and so in the relation to the camera and the monitor. So that is my basic construction, and then I use this language describing what the actual structure is. And so in the 3 levels, one is image, one is language spoken, and then I have this abbreviated symbols. So in the 3 ways, I try to what's going on there, and so that is not only the language but also image and those symbols. main medium, I'm concerned. So I try to develop kind of. I found film, in case of film, it's possible you can refer back, but it also takes time, and because the film involved developing film, and so in case of video, you can refer back immediately at the same time. So you as a person who is shooting as well as who is shot. So a kind of feedback, and which I translated into the language, and I found like I see myself as well as I have another installation piece is called "This is a camera which shoot this," and it's again this referring back what's this, and the subject this and objective this, switching over, and in English you have both same form, objective and as well as subjective, so you can turn back to the object into subject, so going back and forth, which is again happened also in case of the sentence I picked up. I hear myself at the same time that I speak. I turn back this into I speak to myself at the same time that I, as well as changing the pronouns I into you or you and he or she. So these all relation what the linguistic or the shifter the pronouns, what the I or means, what I suggest when it is spoken in the picture, or when it's dubbed over to the picture. So it's all different. See, even you use the same I, still what I mean indicating is a different. So those somehow it's very much overlapped as well as differentiated. There's always ambiguity what I or you means, and you could be you in the picture as well as you as an audience, for instance.
Did you feel in the construction of these that you were in conversation with other video makers, and if so, who?
No.
Was there anybody else working in that vein?
The first time I made this observe piece back in '76, I realized in Minnesota, and nobody whom I could discuss about.
So did you find that it provoked, what sort of conversations did you find that it provoked, or dialogue did it influence other works that you saw that came out later? Other people took from it and extrapolated further investigations. Did you see that happen?
What's her name? The video, kitchen video semiology, what it's called. She realized also kitchen semiology.
I'm not sure.
Martha Rossler.
Martha
Yeah,
Rossler.
That's right. That interests me too, but in different vein. And so that I could refer to, but it's different subject.
Now I was curious, since you're working through the semiology and the various permutations, but also how much would it differ if it were in Japanese?
Yeah, as I used in this case, the leader piece also I use the Japanese as well. So the construction of Japanese is different from the English or other European languages, and as always the subject and object, the order, and then predicate or the verb comes at the end. So when it get a complex sentence, the main sentence comes to the second, and so in this whole structure, that's also I think related to how you conceive the object or perceived object, and Japanese comes object, which I found quite similar in a way. What the camera see, when the camera show the object, you never know what is the subject is, and only the object and the how it is shown. It's either a camera object, for instance, apple is there, or a dog is moving, or you never know who is shooting, or what is the subject, but you see the object, and if they exist or move, and that comes as a predicate or verbs. So this is a kind of semiology in the film or video too. In between of the what the Christian might say is it's a full sense. If we see the apple there is an apple. And what Einstein said, this is only an object, that's the apple itself, what he means. So I'm saying is that apple and the predicate or move, that's the camera shows. And this is very much without knowing the subject. And so it's very much related to the Japanese also use often without subject. We call, colloquially, as well in the written language, but more in a colloquial way. You never know what the subject or who is the subject. Yet we, can communicate each other quite without much problem.
So an appropriate parallel to the video
That's
construction.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I got this idea from structure of Japanese.
Were you referencing Isherwood when you said I'm a camera? Because that's a very funny joke. And were you reading people in the 70s like John Berger, like I said, Ways of Seeing, or not?
Well, this is actually exactly referred to what Gigaberto has said, eye camera, and in his movie, as well as his theory too. And he is the first who realized camera and eye together superimposition in the famous film with a camera. I'm a man with a camera, right? And silent film.
Man with a movie camera.
Man with a movie camera. Sorry. And since that is a silent film, but here it's with a voice, with a sound, so I can show what the language we used. And so he's more metaphorically show visually the camera, the lens, and eye superimpose. Impose, that means eye acting, camera lens is acting like eye. So there is such other scene in his film. He's the first cameraman. That's the front. You see, moving around. It's more like a documentary, but still he constructed Cameron as a subject.
Just a reminder, if anybody needs to leave early, please take a moment to fill out the questionnaire and throw it on the chair on the way out. So when was there a time, do you remember when and why you wanted to start using video as a tool to investigate what Derrida had written?
Yeah. Well, since I have been involved with the voice, how the voice related to identify yourself, either myself in the picture or outside the picture, it's a different. I have a relation to the object and or the person inside, and so the particular sense I found in his translation English in the 70s. So I found this particular sentence to realize using in the video is very suitable, to realize more than film. You can realize the kind of double relation in the video. So I made one of the first talking myself. The first piece I made, 76, and in fact I showed him in Paris, and he was very interested. I asked him, if you come to look at this, just probability, I showed to him.
Please.
Yeah, I think a key term we just have to bring back into this is deconstruction. Because when we talk about Derrida, of course, we're talking about theories of deconstruction. And so what we have here is deconstruction in practice. And I think that's what is always certainly fascinating to me. In the years I've seen these, I've never seen the same program twice, of course, because there are different permutations. So I think we contextualize this one for me is starting with the cage and the process that he goes through vis-a-vis Joyce. And then we have this other meta level going on vis-a-vis Derrida and Iimura. So I think the parallels then become pretty clear, at least in my reading. Anyway. But I think I just want to interject that again, because I think sometimes we lose sight of the importance of semiotics and deconstruction because they go through these cycles of being in fashion and out of fashion. And recently a scholar came to lecture the program I teach, and she had written about postmodernism many years ago and denied its existence. So I think we always have to remember that there are these periods of investigation that we go through, and what we have here is, of course, the essence of what the video apparatus, because we're also talking about the cinematic apparatus on one hand with airtime, and so this investigation is that kind of rigor of breaking it down to the essentials. Anyway,
Oh, thank you for your comment.
I think that's probably why you chose these pieces to work together in this program. So, any other?
This is a simple question, but
Please.
what is it called when you get that infinite regression?
Mise en abîme.
Thank you.
Were you aware of Keith Saunier, who did some earlier mise en abîme pieces? In 1970, he did a piece called Live Video that had mise en abîme and negative and positive. I don't know if, in terms of the dissemination of information to Japan, whether work that was being done in Europe and the States was you saw his work.
No, I've not
Keith
seen.
Saunier.
Yeah, I know. I knew just my name. I've never seen his works. It's publicly shown. What's the title of it?
This piece from 1970 was called Live Video, and I recreated it a few years ago here in Los Angeles in 2003. Some of his earlier media work.
What did you like?
He moved from video to doing neon installations, but he was a very early video pioneer.
Sorry.
So what's his full name? What's her name?
Keith Saunier.
And Scott McDonald, in his article with you, commented that he felt there was a point in the early 70s, I guess, where you moved away from doing exterior imagery, and when, of course, you started going into this work and the work that will be tomorrow night, working with time, in which is entirely like within the studio process. You weren't worried about the gathering of exterior imagery at all, and it became a much more focused studio and processual issue of your construction. And was that something you were conscious of at the time? Was it like a conscious move away from getting out there, from not using more standard exterior imagery in your films, and as you just moved into these investigations into the deconstruction of video and so forth?
Yeah, it's a kind of parallel, but those timepieces, what I call, earlier than these big pieces, and these I made in 76, and those timepieces started around 72 through 4, the first pieces. And so not exactly one against the other, and I moved more into the timepiece earlier in the early 70s. And later I found a video in these times. So not the exact relationship between them, but I try always something film for film, video for video, not to overlap the idea. And although some of the, film pieces are also transferred into video and or on DVD too, but as a media per se, tries in different way to work, and so not directly related to this kind of language and talking pieces and timepieces.
I was curious also about just if you had any thoughts on seeing them in terms of personal biography, we could say, or we talk about tomorrow's pieces are investigating time in film, but these are investigating time in film, and see how you have changed physically over time as well. And I was wondering if that led to any.
Well, I'm myself shooting, so you see how my face has changed. So that's obvious. And, but it's not really a personality concern. Myself more as an abstract eye or a person who just represent the person who speaks. Though I have obviously this facial feature, and my pronunciation sounds strange sometimes, or maybe quite often, and so like when I say sees, some strange the pronunciation, probably mixed up. And though it's not intentionally, but it happens.
With A-E-U-N, I was curious why you felt it was important to include the alternate version excerpts, the green face and blue face, and how you see them in relationship to the main piece.
Well, I found later this IUAO piece, and also this French poet, what's his name, who made a poem of using also a vowel and with color, and it's a famous poem, only in Japanese though. I just can't remember it.
It'll come back in a moment.
That's right. And he has as a blue, or I forget exactly, or the very original colors. He connected with the vowel, with the color. So, although I found it later, but it's not just me to associate the vowel with the color. Oh, ここ思い出す？わかんない。わかんない。
But as you then constructed those later pieces, how do you feel they kept adding to, or why did you find them important to make?
This IO piece? Well, only the first part is synchronized, and then the rest are all desynchronized. And also it's permutating, so you can easily see the difference. The face and the sound is not synchronized. In some case, R or E to and A sound, similar form of the mouth. So sometimes you may not see the difference, but always in this permutation and in this order, and keep rotating. So I found, and also this character, Japanese phonetic alphabet and this alphabet. So there is a such difference also. So again, this piece is the character, and sound and picture works in the three levels and differ and delay too. And what the leader called different and DEF instead of different. What he called that's his the key term in his philosophy. So I try difference and delay at the same time in this piece. And so in a way I realize what it may not be same, but in my way, the difference and the delay is happening here between the picture and sound.
It's a little simple question. In one of the vowels, it looked like a fish fin along the face. I was trying to figure out what organic motion had been exploited to be distorted. Was the ear moving and it made the hair go up? I couldn't figure out what was the inciting image that became those flapping fins on the side of the face.
Oh, you're talking about your piece?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, that's right, like a fish, huh?
Yeah.
I see.
Did the ear move the hair, or what was the actual organic motion that was then distorted by the process of this?
Well, using this device called System G,
Yeah.
you could, make a lot of the play with this and movements, I or U or whatever you
But
like.
wasn't there an underlying movement there already that was there that then you had to exploit?
Well, it's all part of my exploitation and experiments
Okay.
with my face. So it simultaneously can be done. Yes.
Okay, and briefly, for the last piece, I know you also use as a installation in other contexts as well, and I thought you'd want to, if you could elaborate upon that, in what other ways, how do you situate it in installations and some of the levels of meaning as well?
I have not seen you talking,
Yeah.
or I see. Well, this is a kind of byproduct of the seeing, hearing, speaking. It's a very complex, not complex, compressed way, pixelated the image and used. And so, and then I inserted this message, I see you, in between. And in a way, there's sort of this difference. I may be seen, I may not be seen. Yet I see you. That's the kind of difference I try to make it. And in the relationship in the States, that as like blacks are seen, not seen. And so as I am Asian American, may be seen that may not be seen. Yet I see you. That's kind of message I try to convey through this piece.
Was I not seeing the one that was the very fast, rapid?
Yes, the last one.
Yeah.
So, did some of the images almost become subliminal because the dominant, the one that seemed to repeat was the eye, the close-up of the eye, so that it kept referring to the seer not seeing. I just wondered if there was more emphasis on that particular one, or it seemed to dominate, and I wonder if there was some subliminal timing on that, or how that exactly dominated, or just that by chance.
Yeah, well, since seeing or not seeing, this eye is a very important part of the picture, and so it's quite emphasized, repeated, as well as the ear sometimes. But or mouse too, but
They're cut through, but the blue, the large
yeah,
line
blue.
is dominant.
Right. And to not too high, but to as my face maybe deformed in a way with very quick movements and separately eye and all the organs are somewhat apart, and so not as a whole. Yet only when I see you, you see this deformed half face, and let's try to make a kind of message.
Do you think that people are appropriately still investigating the questions of how the lens constructs meaning and organizes language?
Lens,
The camera,
camera lens?
how it structures language and experience? Because, you know, obviously part of what you're creating here is everything is being mediated by the lens. It's a very mechanical,
Right.
organized existence, and you know, one thing that these pieces are doing are foregrounding that issue. And I was curious about your view of video works currently, and if you feel they're still appropriately investigating that issue, or if it still needs to be investigated.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not particularly referring lens per se, and but it is happen through lens, you know. So and also this, not only that. In fact, that piece is also using computer program like After Effects, you know, and, so. It's not lens by itself.
Well, not the, yeah, but just the whole notion of that mediated observational, and how whatever that visual apparatus is that is constructing the images, and how it mediates, or how it structures our language. I was curious about your view on current works and their investigations into that array of issues.
Well, I'm not still sure myself, and I cannot answer well about this issue. There is such, you know, I understand there is an issue, and well, if I go back to what the video as a media for narcissism, what the famous critic has said, right? And so I'm referring that kind of critique myself as a subject, yet I'm not dealing myself as a personality in myself, not involved, but more as a abstract self if I'm dealing. And so that kind of critique could not necessarily apply, you know, to these pieces. And so if that answers your question, I'm not sure. But
I'm not sure if it's an easily answerable question. Any other questions here for Paula?
Well, sort of reframing what I think you were trying to get at a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It seems as if in our lifetime in the 70s, the media, the technology, and philosophy had this interesting deconstruction, and structuralism and semiotics had a kind of an interesting interweaving, and that you couldn't, it was exciting and interesting when we were participating in it. And if I look now, you know, at what we might find something coming together or some kind of interest, obviously the cybernetics, the computer, the internet, the kind of communication that's going on is, I think, more dominant, more interesting. And I was just wondering, I know you have a website, and whether there's something you're investigating about what we think, how we think about that, how that affects us, what that experience is.
Well, now that I'm investigating in that aspect, so since I have made these pieces, I have not done any new pieces out of these So it was made in 70. I'm put into DVD. So in that process, I have a sort of, in fact, seeing hearing speaking has kind of interactivity in it. And though in this version I couldn't show that, the straightforward screening, but there is a text and also graphical score and schematic drawings in the piece. And so if you click those symbols, you can go into from picture to the symbol, the drawing or the photograph or the text, the script, how it is made. And there's also timing involved. So those aspects are not shown here, and I realize these aspects in DVD as well as CD-ROM. For instance, Observe has a CD-ROM version, which is more interactivity and multimedia piece I made. So both image, video, and text, and drawings, and the structure are interrelated. So, but now I did show at UCLA media design workshop there a week ago. And, but here, more straightforward screening of the piece. Yeah.
Any other last questions? Okay, well, we'll still be here available for one-on-one questions, and outside in a minute we'll have email or actually some DVDs available for sale as well. But I wanted to thank Mr. Iimura once again for his being with us.